In the land of Tamriel, there is an event known as the Oblivion Crisis, where Emperor Uriel Septim and seemingly all of his heirs are murdered, allowing the Daedric prince Mehrunes Dagon to completely and utterly invade Tamriel through portals from Oblivion. These portals did not just open in Cyrodiil, but all over Tamriel, decimating many provinces like the Somerset Isles and Morrowind. But there is one province, one race in the Elder Scrolls that not only managed to successfully defend their homeland, but counter-invade into Oblivion itself. And this race is the Argonians. Hello my fellow hirelings of House Telvanni, I'm Neloth, and today I want to discuss why playing an Argonian in Oblivion fits the theme and story of the game better than you may think. Slaying the Mythic Dawn cult and driving back the Daedra to become the champion of Cyrodiil and lead the various guilds to glory. To spit in the eye of Mehrunes Dagon himself. Because if we truly analyze the lore of the Argonians, playing one just fits the narrative of Oblivion so damn well. Now first, I think it is important to quickly highlight who the Argonians are. Argonians, also known as Saxhleel in their native tongue, are a humanoid lizard race originating from Blackmarsh that are known for their stealthy guerrilla warfare tactics, and deep obsession with the Hist, which are sentient trees that act as spiritual guides and protectors for the Argonians. Now, the Argonians worship the Hist, but that is not all, as many also give reverence to Sithis, who is the primordial force of chaos, though the Argonians view Sithis as the inevitable bringer of change and death. While there are many Argonians within Blackmarsh do not worship the Daedra, to the point where the Argonians do not even have words in their native tongue to describe any Daedra. And the reason for this is because Argonians do not wish to, quote, taint their language with words for abominations from Oblivion, showing the Argonians hold little love for the Daedra. Even races like the Nords and Khajiit have names for the Daedra, like how the Nords used to call Malakath Orki, and how the Khajiit have a bunch of names for Daedric princes like Mehrunes or Boethra. Aside from the odd Argonian here and there, the only known tribe or group of Argonians that practice Daedra worship are the Sul'Zan tribe, who worship Mehrunes Dagon as the true egg child of Sithis. The true and more physical personification of destruction and, more importantly, change. There are also Argonians that worship the Nine Divines, but they are Argonians that have assimilated into the wider Tamrielic cultures. Now, the reason I am highlighting the Argonians' disdain and little appreciation for the Daedra is because I truly believe that the Argonians are the greatest Daedra slayers in all of Tamriel. Excluding the Telvanni of Morrowind, of course, because we all know they could destroy armies of Daedra with a flick of their wrist. I already mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but the Argonians were the only race that successfully drove back the Daedra, even going so far as to counter-invade by viciously charging into Dagon's portals and slaying so many Daedra that the Daedra themselves had to shut down all the portals in Blackmarsh for fear of being overrun. Now, it should be stated that the Argonians were actually prepared for an invasion unlike the other provinces, as the Hist trees foresaw the Oblivion Crisis and called many Argonians with connections to the Hist back to Blackmarsh to defend their homeland. The Hist aided the Argonians even further by altering many of them by making them stronger, faster, and able to endure harsher punishment. Basically, the Hist trees turned many Argonians into Captain America-like super soldiers. It also helped that Blackmarsh is a very inhospitable land to anyone that isn't Argonian, making it difficult for even Daedric forces to invade. Even Tiber Septim, the man-turned-god Talos, thought twice about invading Blackmarsh, and was only able to conquer the province by way of treaties rather than war. After the Oblivion Crisis, where many provinces were ruined and divided, the Argonians rose stronger and more united than ever, which is what led to them seceding from the Empire and eventually invading Morrowind. This united group that was formed in the aftermath of the Oblivion Crisis was known as the Anzalil. But this begs the question, what if, when all the Argonians were being called to Blackmarsh to be turned into super Daedra slayers, one of these super soldiers was sent to Cyrodiil? Perhaps one of the Hist trees had deeper foresight than the others and believed that sending one of their own would be exactly what Nirn needed to drive the Daedra back. I don't know about you, but that sounds like an incredible story, basically being a lizard doomslayer. But aside from a cool little role-playing backstory, what other reasons would drive an Argonian to leave their beloved swamplands behind and head to the lush forests of Cyrodiil? The most notable reason would have to be, well, slavery, as the Dunmer of Morrowind enslave many races but target the Argonians especially since they live the closest to them. Many Argonians were either taken from their homeland or were simply born as slaves away from Blackmarsh. Due to this, Argonians who were freed or escaped captivity may have fled west for other parts of Tamriel rather than going back to Blackmarsh. And the children of these Argonians may have stayed all over Tamriel, with little desire to return to their homeland as their new home is right where they are. Another reason has to do with piracy, because Blackmarsh is so inhospitable for non-Argonians that pirates often use the land to escape Imperial law. And it makes sense that pirates would often recruit Argonians or drive Argonians from their homeland, with the former having Argonians dock in every port of Tamriel, even in Cyrodiil. And hell, one of the deadliest pirates in Elder Scrolls history was an Argonian named Red Brahmin, so it makes sense that Argonians could sail all over Tamriel as pirates or even regular sailors. That, and Argonians are the best swimmers and can literally breathe underwater. There are also a number of other reasons as well that extend to other races: opportunity, crime, wanderlust, adventuring, and many more. There is also a place in Cyrodiil that is very attractive to Argonians, a city where many of them live since it is so close to Blackmarsh, and the Argonians get to have the best of both Imperial and Argonian worlds. And that city is Leyawiin and the outer Blackwood region. So an Argonian champion of Cyrodiil will likely enjoy Leyawiin as it will feel like home to them, and they won't feel completely alienated from their homeland like they would in, say, Morrowind or Skyrim. When it comes to the factions and guilds within Cyrodiil, almost all of them would be very appealing to an Argonian for either cultural or physical reasons. The first is the Fighters Guild. Now, the Fighters Guild recruits all warriors of all backgrounds, provided they don't have a bounty on their head. However, the story is very intrinsically tied to Argonians. See, the whole quest line with the Fighters Guild involves fighting and infiltrating a rival mercenary guild called the Blackwood Company, who are predominantly Khajiit and Argonians and a few Imperials that were originally mercenaries sent by Emperor Uriel Septim himself to reclaim territory in Blackmarsh, but failed and decided to set up a mercenary company in Leyawiin and the Blackwood area. The Blackwood Company repeatedly undercuts the Fighters Guild and does less reputable work the Fighters Guild wouldn't be caught dead doing. But the Blackwood Company has a dark secret, because they have their guild members drink a mysterious substance that makes them faster and stronger. But this mysterious liquid was sap from a Hist tree that was captured and imprisoned in the basement of the Blackwood Company headquarters, where metal machines would drill right into the Hist tree to pump out as much sap as possible, draining the Hist tree and torturing it. As an Argonian who has lived in Blackmarsh, this would be seen as evil and heretical, especially since the Hist tree should be treated with respect, not tortured and drilled into. Besides, only the Argonians being called to defend Blackmarsh against the Daedra should be consuming this hist sap, and it should not be used by mercenaries looking for an easy profit. So it would make sense for an Argonian to have a personal stake and vendetta against the Blackwood Company and any Argonian that is knowingly torturing a poor hist tree. It is unfortunate that you will have to destroy the hist tree, but granting the tree a quick death would be far more merciful and respectable than letting it rot and fester while machines continue to defile it. Now, for the Thieves Guild and Mages Guild, there really isn't any deep lore connections and reasons for why an Argonian is more fitting narratively than any other race. However, Argonians do make phenomenal thieves and mages. They are good at stealth due to their history of using guerrilla warfare tactics and hiding or even ambushing House Drez slavers. And they are good with magic as they have a natural affinity to it, likely due to their mystical background involving the hist trees, and are said to have blood magic running through their veins. Though the last part is just idle gossip said by Outlanders in Morrowind. And both guilds have Argonians, like Amuse or Tikius, that you can help out, so it all works very well. It is also handy to be an Argonian when doing quests for the Thieves Guild, as during the quest Arrow of Extrication, you will need to traverse through an underwater tunnel system that is quite annoying to navigate unless you have done it like 100 times. And for the guild you have probably been waiting for me to talk about, I like saving the best for last, is the Dark Brotherhood. Putting aside the fact that Argonians have a natural affinity for stealth and assassinations, Argonians also have a religious and cultural affinity towards the Dark Brotherhood. As I said at the beginning of the video, Argonians worship Sithis as an agent of change, but so does the Dark Brotherhood, who worship him as the Dread Father. Sithis is regarded as the Void, which is an empty place of nothingness where the Dark Brotherhood sends the souls of those they assassinate. There is only the cold void, and the name Sithis and any iconography related to Sithis is just a way to personify the void. The hist trees believe that the void is where, quote, all roads lead. It is where everyone is born from and where everyone returns to. And the hist acknowledge that Sithis is the original creator, he who causes change without design. There is also an organization of Argonian assassins that are intrinsically linked with the Dark Brotherhood, and those Argonians are known as Shadowscales. Shadowscales are Argonians born under the sign of the Shadow and serve as a form of law enforcement in Blackmarsh that bring swamp law to both natives and foreigners alike. At birth, these Shadowscales are offered up to the Dark Brotherhood where they are trained in the arts of stealth and assassination. When Shadowscales come of age, they are fully accepted into the Dark Brotherhood as a full member of the family. What's interesting about Shadowscales is that they are allowed to freely leave the Dark Brotherhood at any time and help their people in other ways. Some may serve as arbiters to resolve disputes, some serve to carry out swamp law and protect Blackmarsh, and some serve as protectors and personal assassins to the King of Blackmarsh. Though there is little information regarding the King of Blackmarsh or their royal family. Sadly, even if we are an Argonian that chooses the Shadowscale birth sign, we will not be recognized as a Shadowscale by the two Shadowscales within the Dark Brotherhood, Ochiva and Tinava. Further proved by the fact that a Shadowscale is not allowed to kill another Shadowscale, and we the player have the opportunity of completing a quest that involves killing a rogue Shadowscale. But just because we are not a Shadowscale does not mean we aren't able to join the Dark Brotherhood and have it be of cultural significance to us. If the champion of Cyrodiil happens to be an Argonian, they may join the Dark Brotherhood as a way to be spiritually closer to Sithis by bringing about change through murder. You may see the Dark Brotherhood as sinister or evil or, in my opinion, way too fucking edgy, but an Argonian might see them as agents of the inevitability of death, one you have become an agent of yourself. sharing the void to both Daedra and mortal alike, although Daedra will return from said void. When it comes to the main quest, when you fight the Mythic Dawn cult and aid Martin Septim in relighting the dragon fires, this fight may be a tad bit more personal for an Argonian. Death begets change, and Sithis is seen as the personification of change without design. But Mehrunes Dagon is also described as the Daedric prince of not just destruction, but also change. I mean, one of his freaking titles is being the Lord of Change. So an Argonian fighting for Cyrodiil could see this fight as being a duel of changes. Which philosophy of change is stronger and more intrinsic to the very earth itself? The void of Sithis versus the razor-sharp fires of Dagon. Change without design versus change with design in mind. Mehrunes Dagon could also be seen as a false prophet to the Argonians. As stated before, there was a tribe of Argonians in the Second Era called the Sul'Zan tribe that worshipped Mehrunes Dagon as the true egg child of Sithis. The Mythic Dawn cult believe that they will be richly rewarded for their service, as they will become immortal and each will be given a portion of Lord Dagon's kingdom when he takes Tamriel. But when we enter Paradise, the realm created by Mankar Cameron, we see that the Mythic Dawn were being lied to, and while they become quote-unquote immortal in Paradise, they are being eternally tortured by the Daedra for their own amusement, and the rich rewards that the Mythic Dawn cultists were promised was actually torture, suffering, and misery. For an Argonian who may have some awareness as to the history of the Sul'Zan tribe, they may see the torture in Paradise as proof that Mehrunes Dagon is a liar and false prophet of change that is not the true egg child of Sithis, and must be defeated at all cost. Besides, Daedra can be defeated temporarily but can never be killed permanently, which may be seen as heretical to an Argonian that deeply worships Sithis. As one may believe that change and death should be inevitable, but Daedra, like Dagon, callously disregards such principles. Now, when you walk around Cyrodiil, you may come across Ayleid ruins and Ayleid architecture. Hell, the White Gold Tower was built by the Ayleids, as was much of the Imperial City. Well, the Ayleids did not just occupy Cyrodiil, but also High Rock, Valenwood, and even Blackmarsh. The Ayleids that occupied Blackmarsh were known as the Barsabic Ayleids, and they even founded a number of cities that modern-day Argonians rule, like Stormhold, Gideon, Archon, and Thorn. Though these cities had more Ayleidic, names like Silyannorn or Twilbeck. These Barsabic Ayleids were different from your run-of-the-mill Cyrodiil Ayleids though, as they worshipped the divines, the Aedric gods, rather than the Daedra, and they likely did so in a similar capacity to the Altmer. But while these Ayleids worshipped the Aedra, they still engaged in conflict with the Argonians, fighting and conquering land, and even enslaving and stealing Argonian souls. However, these Ayleids faded from history like the rest, and the Argonians were able to settle on their territory and take their cities for themselves. So, plundering Ayleid ruins and searching for relics like the Welkin Stones, Varla Stones, Ayleid Crowns, the Staff of Nenalata, and even Umaril's sword could be seen as poetic, as you are doing what your ancestors did back in the day, taking Ayleid relics for yourself. Speaking of Umaril, you might find that aiding the Knights of the Nine and becoming the Divine Crusader would be weird, but it really isn't when you think about it. Argonians can be followers of the Nine. Just think of Shavi from Skyrim, who worships Zenithar. And you don't really have to worship the Nine or even respect Pelinal Whitestrake. You just have to have enough courage to fight back against the Ayleids and their sinister gods like your ancestors did and claim their relics for your own. The last reason I want to bring up on why playing an Argonian in Oblivion is cooler than you think is simply because the Oblivion Remaster makes this race look so much cooler than they did in normal Oblivion. I mean, can you even compare the two? The new and improved Argonian just looks so damn good, and their heads aren't so damn skinny by default, like in the original. Better skin tones, or scale tones I guess, different eye colors, and their fins and spikes look sick. I'm also really happy that the male Argonians have a second voice actor that isn't shared with the Khajiit. That was something that always really pissed me off in the original. Though I'm not sure why the female Argonians don't have a second voice actor, especially since there are many that we interact with in the main quest and guilds. So, even if you don't care about any of the lore I have just talked about, first of all, how did you even get this far into the video? And second, you should play them for their new looks alone. And that's all I wrote. A video where I explain why playing an Argonian fits the narrative of Oblivion far better than you might think, and why you might want to play one in your next playthrough. I'm currently playing the Oblivion Remaster as a Dunmer Battle Mage right now, but I will probably play as an Argonian Nightblade after. Hopefully you enjoyed. If this video does well, I do have plans to make similar videos, like why playing a Khajiit or Orc in Skyrim is better than you think, and why playing a Nord in Morrowind is better than you think. But you know who else is better than you may think? My channel members, and they are Mirak, Sovdark, Conarunda, Will Ernst, The Proud Prince, Skooma Addict, JJ Ensid, Grud, Luis Eduardo, Dova 2023, Josh McDonald, Milani Stilla, Abdullah the Goat, Luxie, Batman Man, David Correa, Ranger McKay, Dalton Rupert, I Love House Halalu, Kirill Gaming, Carson Friday, Thelxus Rianus, and Cosmo. So with all that being said, make sure to like the like button, like the subscribe button, and like the bell notification down below to be updated on future videos. And I will see you whenever the fuck I decide to upload again. House Telvanni be with you.
I suppose you want to be asked nicely. Very well. Please, O hero of Skyrim, I shall be ever so grateful.
I'm Darji. I'm a Khajiit in disguise. Want to see me lick my butt? Oh, that one never gets old. Want to hear a Khajiit joke? Why do Khajiit lick their butts? To get the taste of Khajiit cooking out of their mouths. A real thigh slapper, that one, eh? I heard lots of others, only I can't remember them.